All right. So a couple of you guys been asking like how or my process of running LEDs for Gundam kits. So I'll kind of go over it really quick and try to make it as painless as possible and as easy to understand as possible. So first and foremost, you always need a solid plan of how you're going to run your LEDs, the way that you want them to be ran and, stuff like that. But things that you will need a pin vise, one of these guys. You normally, if you get it in the kit, they come with drill bits, right? You are going to need a battery box of some kind. As you can see, mine, I already soldered it to a male plug. These are the plugs that I use. This is the female end. The tip of the wire is already tinned. This is the male end, right? So obviously, you take the male end and you plug it into the female end. Simple. So what I usually do is I prefer to put or integrate or whatever the female end inside the kit itself, just because for plugging purposes it's a lot easier. You're also going to need super glue. Uh, you might not always need it. It just depends on the kit itself, but it's just nice to have to glue your LED if you need to. You're also going to need electrical tape. That way you can cover all your connections so they're not touching each other, nothing, you know, shorts or whatever like that. So you need that. Um, the other thing is you need these little batteries. At least that's what I'm using. I know some people might probably want to use like 9-volt batteries or whatever, but these are what work for me, and these also work for testing purposes. If you try to test the LEDs that I'm using with like a 9-volt, and you don't have a I forget what you call it. Uh, I'll remember when I don't care. So basically, if you try to use a 9-volt battery with the ones that I'm using, it will short. So that's why I use these, because it's perfectly fine. And this is the actual LEDs that I use. If you have questions about what they are, where to get them from, and this and that, I can always direct you and send you links from Amazon, which is where I get the most of my materials anyway. So basically, what you want to do, I always test each LED before I use it. That way, I make sure that it works beforehand. That way, if something happens later on and put an indicator it doesn't work, I know that the issue is with something with the legs of the LED or something like that. So I always check it. To do so, you just take, with these in particular, the positive end will be here. It's colored. It's like a copper color, and then the other end is the negative end is just silver. So what I do is I take the positive, line it up like this and go like that, and there you see everything is working, right? Cool. So the next step is now I already have the head disassembled on my my Master Grade RX 79. So what I'm going to show you is like a general thing, but keep in mind that since every kit is different and the joints in every kit is different, you're gonna have to use your imagination on how you plan to run things. Whether you want to hide them or if you don't mind wires being seen or whatnot. So it's all about what you decide to do. One thing that I can't stress enough is really take some time while your kit's apart, or even when it's together and you want to take it apart and this and that. Really take some time to map out how you want to run these legs. They're not very, very long, but in most cases so far that I've used them, I've put them in. This will now be my fourth kit, I believe. So I've had a lot of success in using them. So anyway, here we go. So with this kit in particular, the neck joint is here, right? The ball joint for the neck is here, and then it has a poly cap that controls, the up and down motion, side to side, whatever. So what I need to do, or what I'm deciding to do, is I'm just gonna put the poly cap on the socket itself, or on the ball joint itself. That way, when I make my hole, it's all one uniform hole in all the same spot in both the polycap and the ball joint. So one thing that's really important is when you're making your holes, is you always start with the smallest bit possible. You can always widen if you need to. You can always go bigger if you need to, but you can take out, but you can't put back. So what I recommend is always start with the smallest bit that you have, and just kind of work your way up if you need to. But I need to grab this guy because it's the kit I have. These bits are a little bit weird trying to take out. So this is the smallest bit that I have. So we'll start here. So we're just gonna, and I apologize for the position of my camera. It's like really awkward. I need to invest in a tripod, which I'll do this weekend. Because I have a feeling that I'll be making more videos on, how to do stuff. So anyways, so we're gonna get the bit and the pin vise. So what I'm gonna do is try to make this as center as possible. And sometimes it's just a lot better to take something like a hobby knife, the point of a hobby knife or whatever, and make your mark of where you're going to drill. But so what I'm gonna do is just kind of eyeball this and just start digging in. So I took some time yesterday to map out exactly how I want my wires ran. So again, this all just depends on your imagination and your ingenuity. But don't be afraid to try things either, because sometimes what I do is I buy cheap, what I call throwaway kits. I know Vince doesn't like that I call them that, but I buy throwaway kits, kits that I don't mind messing up because they're not expensive. So I use those to practice on. So I did the same thing when I was learning to paint with airbrush. So now, as you see, I'm moving on to a different bit. This one I usually use just to make my mark. So I'm going to the next drill bit size up. But anyway, when I was learning to paint, and don't get me wrong, I'm still learning. I'm by no means like perfect at painting or anything like that yet. So, but when I was starting out, I bought like a cheap like Saku kit, and I just went to town. I was like, if I fail, I fail, but you know I didn't lose anything but a few bucks. So we're gonna take this bit, and then we're really like gonna get into this. So what I may do, just for time's sake, is I might just take the poly cap off. As you can see, there's already the hole in the poly cap, right? So I'll just take this. Sorry, I'm off cam, and so I'll just take this and just do this really good. Now, this might be enough space for the way that I'm going to run this. This actually might be enough space to where I might not have to go bigger and the legs may fit in, and maybe they won't. But you see how here, I don't know if you can see it, but there's already a hole started from where I had the poly cap on top. And that's kind of basically where I wanted it. So my idea with this is to go straight down, because I'm going to run these wires through the body cavity of the kit itself. So I need, for this kit in particular, I need to go all the way down for how I want to run this, because ultimately what I'm going to do is hide the female end in the body somewhere. That way I can just unplug it and plug it as I need. And then with the backpack unit, you won't be able to see the plug there when it's unplugged. You won't know it's there. Unless like, you're like really weird and, and are like looking for it. So anyway, I'll just keep going until I get the hole that I want. And just be really careful again, start small and then work your way up, because you don't want to run the risk of blowing out your ball joint. That's, once you do that, like, you're either buying another kit or you're trying to fix the ball joint or whatever. So it's just, in the long run, it's just easier to just go little by little. If you have to move a size up, you just do it, bit size by bit size, instead of rushing through it and going, oh, well, I'll just go a few sizes up just to make the job quicker. So just trust me on this. So we're just gonna keep going and keep going until we get through to the middle. And it takes a while. I probably could get away with using a Dremel with this, but I'm, for sake of just doing things in a manner of where I don't regret it later, I'll just keep doing it by hand. It sucks, but let's see. I want to see how far I've gone down. I've gone down pretty far, but I still needed to come out the other end. So that's the big thing with me right now. So since most of the other kits that I've done, you can kind of like see the wires. So I'm trying to get to a point where I can figure out how to hide them where they can't be seen. So, and that's something that I'm kind of demonstrating with this kit in particular. I failed to mention, you guys, if you don't have one and you plan on that, there we go. If you don't have one already, invest in a soldering iron and, solder wire and all that good stuff. You're going to need that for your electrical connections. That's very, very, very important. So, all right. So what we'll do now, so we're on the second size bit. So what we'll do is we'll take our LED and we'll put the legs together just to see if we can get them to go through the holes that we drilled. So here's the polycap. And then, I apologize if I keep doing things off camera. This is really awkward, and this is the first time of me ever recording anything. So as it stands right now, we were able to get both legs in this one, in the polycap, right? So should essentially go in the hole. See that? Right? Which is pretty much what I wanted. Now, the biggest thing too, and I failed to mention this also, again, this is my first video, so it's really weird. What you're going to do with your eyes, what you need to do is I use flat black, and I use like it's just easier for me. I take a toothpick and dip it in the paint, and I go around the mask. If I happen to get it on the islands, I'll take something like, since I'm using acrylic mostly, I'll take something like X20A, or you can use Windex to clean the lenses off. That way there's no paint, no black paint on the lenses. So once the mask part dries, then I turn around, and you have to use a translucent paint. You can't use like a regular paint because no light will shine through it. So I personally have Tamiya clear green, clear blue, clear yellow, and clear red. So those are what I use. And so after the mask dries, then I just turn around and I paint the the whole clear piece. What you don't want to do is you don't want to paint the entire clear piece black. Don't do that, because if you do that, then there's no light can shine through any of it, and then what light you do get through the eye lenses will be really, really faint, and that's kind of pointless. The other thing to point out is so for your helmet, I didn't do it because I just don't care right now. This is just to show you guys how to just run the LEDs. So I didn't put a whole lot of effort into it. What you want to do typically is you want to paint the inside of your helmet pieces. The reason why you want to paint them black is because this LED will shine through the helmet, so you'll see light like sticking up like right here or whatever. So to kind of get rid of that, you generally want to paint black around it. Usually what I just do, and again, I didn't do it today because whatever. Usually what I do is just put it on the top portion because you don't really see any light bleeding through like the sides or anything. But that's just typically what you do. You just paint the inside of the helmet black. All right. So anyways, now you have to figure out. So you've figured out how to get, your LED in the joint. Now what you need to figure out is where exactly you want this LED and where it will fit. In my RG kits that I've done, I've had to basically the same hole that I used to drill for the neck joint. I've had to make like a pocket of sorts where to like the very top of it was drilled out a little bit wider than the rest of the hole just for the LED to sit in, or I've had to drill through like, certain parts inside the helmet just for the LED to sit through. Again, this just where your imagination comes in, and map all of this stuff out ahead of time instead of just jumping in it and trying to do it or whatever. Just as far as you can map it out, just map out your entire project. So what I'm gonna do at this point is I'm gonna kind of lightly build um, everything. That way I know where exactly I want my LED to sit. And 9 times out of 10, what I'm gonna end up doing, because I already mapped this out, is I'm probably just gonna super glue it like right here somewhere. Just because it's not like the light isn't blinding in the eyes and all that or whatever. So, anyways, to kind of show you what I mean, we're gonna just put these together really quick and I'll show you how it works. So, we'll get, I'm jumping ahead of my own self. So we'll get this on. And then we'll get, and I'm not gonna build up the entire helmet, but just enough for you to see, how this works. So then we'll get this on, and I'm not gonna put this on all the way either, just enough, right? So then, just for shits and giggles, we'll put these pieces on, right? Oh no, we're not. We're just gonna take those off because that's not important. All right, but what I needed to do is I need to re-separate this because I need to put the important piece at this point is the polycap for the neck joint. That needs to go in. That way I know where to position the LED. Honestly, if I wanted, I could just probably glue this LED right where it is and it'll probably look fine, to be perfectly honest. And so we're going to test that theory by just doing this. Ha! What do you guys think? I think I'm honestly just going to leave it like that. Now let's see if you can see. So since I don't, if this LED was further up in the helmet, then you'd be able to see exactly what I'm talking about the light bleeding through it. So see what I mean? That's what you don't want. So that's why you paint it black. But I think what I'm gonna do is just let this LED just kind of float here on the polycap, right? Because I think it looks good enough. And it's not like going anywhere, and this allows me to have a little bit more motion and movement inside the helmet. So since drop the piece. Since I'm fairly happy with this, I'm going to go and actually just put it together because I'm really happy with that. So you notice too, the back camera on this one unfortunately is just a sticker. So you really can't take advantage of that. However, as you can see, the front camera I have lit up and all that stuff too. So we'll go ahead and we'll get the V fin on. If it doesn't give me too much trouble today. Sometimes I hate these damn V fins. And it doesn't help either. I'm trying to do this in a way to where you guys can see what I'm doing. Give me a second. I'm going to go off cam for a second. So pull this fin up. Maybe not. Okay, there we go. And mind you, I've been actually wanting to do this to this kit for a long time because this is my first like old master grade. And to be perfectly honest, this is probably one of my favorites. It's probably my second favorite. My first favorite master grade kit is probably my heavy arms. All right, so Now that we got that, and again, we can go back and test it again just to make sure everything still works. Looks pretty good. Boom. Now, that is a general way of how you guys can run LEDs. So what I like to do is I always like to make it in a way to where I can go into the neck joint and everything still works together, because you can do it to a point where you can't put the head down anymore. So anyways, we're just gonna run this through here, and there's a step that I forgot to do that I wanted to do with this kit. It's inconsequential to you guys, but it's just important to me. But you see that? And we still have a nice range of motion for the head. And again, we'll go back with our battery and test. Boom. There we go. So that's about it for how to do this. I pretty sure I will bore you guys by, you know what? No, I'll let you guys see what I'm doing. So this is what I'm going to do. Since remember I said I'm going to hide the LED cables and all that. So what I've already done is on my female end, I've cut and stripped what I need. So I've also made a little hole in this part here, because the female end of the plug is going to go in this hole, right? It's not going to be perfect, but it'll do what I need it to do. So what I need to do at this point is I need to make a hole right here, because this part, the wire is going to go through this part and feed into here, which will get soldered to this. So I'll go ahead and make my hole. And to make things easier, I will just pull this out. So I'll make my hole. I really love this pin vise, guys. If you don't have one, get one. All right, so we have our hole made. So what I'll do is I'll run the head back through. I'll run the wires back through. Excuse me. The neck joint. And one thing to mention is when I do this for like the endless walk kits, for those of you who've built them, you understand that the neck joint is kind of like an L shape or whatever. What I would do is I would drill halfway into the ball joint in the top, and then I would drill halfway through the back. So basically I would go and make a hole here like I did on this ball joint, but then I make another hole here. That way I could feed the wires out the back of the ball joint, if that makes any sense to anyone. So anyways, we're going to try to, I'll see if I can do it, but we'll try to run these wires through this hole that I made. And if I have to make it bigger, I have to make it bigger, but maybe I can get it. And I got it. So we're going to push this down. Now, mind you, I'm going to have to do this again, because I have to basically rebuild the kit again. But I'm just kind of give you a general idea of what direction I'm going and all that. So what I should do is what I'm going to do is actually unbuild all of this, because I still need to put like all these parts and stuff back on. So the easiest way for me to do that would be to go back and build the head later after everything else is built. So I'll just take all this stuff off and this and that, but I don't want to hold you guys too much longer. So while I work on this, you guys can kind of, if you have an idea or, whatever, you can kind of plan out your stuff. And I'm going to work on this for a little while, and I will show you guys the end result in chat. So there you go.